Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with Part 9, Adumbrations, from Some Mystical Adventures by G.R.S. Mead. Chapter 9, Adumbrations. Supposing a man could see nothing but shadows, what conception would he have of the beautiful natural world of form and color in which we live? How strange would be his misconceptions of the objects which delight our eyes? What queer abortions would he not bring to birth compared with the full-formed children of our developed senses? And yet for those who see the soul of things, we men, in spite of all the marvel of the sights of our fair world, live in a shadowland. The things we see are shadow, things aslant, askew, dim outlines out of all proportion compared with the realities that live in the true sun world. The world of perfect spheres whose heart is in the center of all things. Or to put it another way, ordinary human consciousness is as it were a kind of prenatal existence compared with the state of perfected manhood, the flower of humanity. This flowering of humanity is, to use another figure, the bringing to birth of a new consciousness. It is a new dawn of life and light. Of this other consciousness there are at first adumbrations, foreshadowing only. And as the characteristic of this new conscience is recognized self-consciousness, the birth makes itself known by the ability to common sense the objects of the five-sense world as adumbrations of the modes of a great soul, and by the faculty of contemplating ideals as premonitions of the energies of a great mind. But this great soul and this great mind are not essentially other than man's true self. They are the fullness of which the new creation is the germ. These adumbrations of the glories that ever are foreshadowings of what the man himself will be when he has reached perfection. Not only are the natural objects of our five-sense world adumbrations of the glories of the one-sense world, the mysteries of the soul of things, but all the great mystery rites, all the great ceremonies are in some way the foreshadowings of these greater things. And all the great myths and stories of the world are in some sort premonitions of the powers that perfect man shall wield, and of the glories that shall adorn him in the greatness. We, then, who are still confined within the consciousness of normal man, are, in the light of this great consciousness, babes yet unborn. It is difficult to find true words to name the various grades of the greater mysteries, the stages of the new birth, new childhood and new manhood, for we in Shadowland can deal with the adumbrations only of great things, shades of the mysteries and the perfections. We must then be content to evoke the realities by the names of their shadows. As in the lesser mysteries of human birth and growth and death and rebecoming, men were taught to recognize the shadows of greater things. So in the greater mysteries of regeneration there is birth and there is prenatal existence. But how much more glorious is the greatness and freedom of the latter than the smallness and servitude of the former? If there be birth, it is the birth of perfected manhood. If there be growth, it is the expansion into infinitude. If there be death, it is the death of death and the birth of immortality. If there be rebecoming, it is the power to become all things at will. For those who are being made ready, for the aspiring candidate, the one who has put on the white robe and whose heart longs for release, who is clothing himself in purity and whose face is set above, his normal human consciousness may be taken in some fashion as a faint adumbration of the prenatal existence of a human God. The darkness of the night of the soul is beginning to be faintly illumined by the first rosy beams of the rising sun. It is the dawn of the Christ state in its most human phase. But if we here use the term Christ, we should remember that this word conjures up a single great adumbration only, one of a number. And we should therefore be very careful not to limit our intuition of this sublime state by thinking in the terms of the Christian adumbration of the mystery too exclusively. Perhaps some of my readers may object to the frequent use of the term mystery, but I know no more efficient name not only for the sacred operations designed to bring man into contact with superhuman things, but also for beings and states of being beyond the normal world of man and its inhabitants. Ordinary human consciousness, then, may be said to provide the conditions of prenatal existence for one preparing to attain perfection. It is in such conditions of formal consciousness that there is operated in man what the Christian Gnostics called the information according to substance. This is achieved by a further outpouring of the divine life which floods his being. But what is called the information according to gnosis is a later stage. The birth of mind requires breath, and only when the great breath is active in him is he born in mind, in the great air. Then and then only may he be said to rise out of his tomb or be born from the cave or womb and breathe the true air of cosmos. He transcends his personal limits and frees himself from the loving bonds of the Earth Mother. But even while the mystery of the information according to substance is being accomplished, whereby the substance of man's body is transmuted into the nature of the cosmic elements, there is, it is said, a gradual sweeping away of all to which the consciousness of man has previously been accustomed. There is a purification, and the habitual ceases. The things we have grown used to are transformed. This does not, however, mean a change so great that speech with mortals becomes impossible. But it means that speech must be in the language of adumbrations, of figures, symbols, allegories, similitudes, parables, and myths. The shadows of the things that are, but which cannot be expressed or explained in the too unplastic medium of normal human speech. And this language of adumbration is a fitting mode of speech to veil the mysteries, and at the same time, to reveal the meaning of the mystery to those who sense its operations in their inmost life. For in this new prenatal existence, it is not so very otherwise than with a human babe. Though one is small and the other great, one is surrounded by the mother's womb, the other is encompassed by the vault of heaven. An unborn babe, it is said, becomes sensible of many things that it afterwards sees. Before birth, it is surrounded by fluids and forces that to the perceptions of which its body, not mind, it has no mind till breath comes, is then capable, are said by some, to have very distinct correspondences with what it sees when it is born. Being born, then, is not quite so much of a surprise to a baby, at any rate not so much as one is inclined to think according to this view of the matter. For it is said that the air and trees around, the currents of electricity and magnetism which set up thrills in its body, have already had their exact correspondences on what we may call another side of things, and it has thus experienced similar, not the same, feelings before, while in the prenatal state, not to mention the great sweeps of emotion its body has experienced through contact with its mother's passions. How powerful these latter may be can be seen in cases of great fright, when the body of the little is born either stamped with the mark of the cause of terror, or disfigured, or even entirely maimed. These exceedingly important phenomena should enable us to deduce many adumbrations of greater passions and emotions when applied to man considered as a babe unborn within great Mother Nature. The vast sweeps of nature's motion, the thunder and lightning and air and sea and sun, the emotions and the ecstasies caused by these are the thrills of real passions transmitted to us through the emotions of our mother within whom we dwell. And it is along this line that one who is beginning to be informed according to substance should expect premonitions of greater feelings, for such passions are the links between the prenatal and postnatal consciousness of greater manhood. The Great Mother is stirred to emotion, and the thrills of her passion reach man through nature, through the four elements. As man begins to rise in the scale of being, as he nears the time of birth from his Great Mother's womb, it is first along this side of things, and not by way of the planes, that he should expect to contact the great world. This way of birth does not mean a flying away from Earth and soaring to new stars, but rather connotes consciousness of a new condition of matter, or from another point of view, a new aspect of the same objects. It is by linking himself onto nature and, so to speak, trying to breathe with her, that man can best draw the experiences of this consciousness down into his finite body. These mysteries seem to have been better understood in antiquity than they are today, perhaps because form had not so greatly dominated life, mind had not so greatly divided substance. Thus, in a theurgic ritual, which hands on the tradition of the innermost secret of the Mithriac mysteries, the mystery of the new birth, or birth in immortality, the true apotheosis, we are told that prior to his birth into the cosmic air, the candidate for the eagle grade, who will then be able to soar into the pure ether and gaze unwinking at the sun as it is, first of all invokes his perfect body, which lies hid in the substance of his imperfect mortal frame. This is a quintessential body of pure elements, and not a compost of the impure mixtures of earth that we call elements. But in these mystic adumbrations of greater things, the terms are always changing. For within the growing man, so to say, there is a Christ child, and again within the Christ child a grown man. Further, what is taboo among men with their bans and ordinances is not taboo among the gods in their freedom. The so-called immorality of the gods is immorality only so long as we persist in regarding them as men. That a man should wed his mother is regarded as a crime against nature, and rightly so in the realms of diversity. But the myths of old, the adumbrations of greater things, tell us that in Godland the son eventually becomes the husband of his mother. So too is it with the human God stage. The child born of Mother Nature, when grown to his full stature, weds his mother, and nature becomes his spouse or complement or fulfillment. Even in lesser things, in the adumbrations of the greater or cosmic mysteries, there is mystic intercourse with the elements of Mother Earth and their ensuing life. The medieval legends of the marriage of the philosopher with the sylphs and undines will here occur to some of my readers, for thus alone it was said, could these nature creatures become possessed of an immortal soul? The alchemistical philosopher gives of his reasonable soul to the instinctual life of the elements, and they in their turn give him a new body, or rather they transmute the substance of his body. All of which may be read in the strange story of the Comte de Gabalis, or master of the Kabbalah, for Kabal and Gabal are twins. And so from another point of view, when a candidate in these greater mysteries is preparing to become a mystis, he has, it is said, to marry each of the four elements. Such an one is supposed to have finished with the normal side of things, that is to say, to have done with using them in the normal way. He has done with the planes, as they are generally understood by climbers of the ladder. He no longer desires to look at the universe from the plane point of view, where matter and form are divided up according to certain fixed laws. He has now, it is said, to contact a quite new condition of the same thing. For as the old Logos has it, by earth we earth perceive, by water water, by air air, and fire by flaming fire. And if this be true of the mixed elements, as the ancients declared, we should have here an adumbration of the nature of the pure simplicities. Therefore, in the new birth, it is necessary to begin with the true elements. For the consciousness is no longer to be dominated by the spheres of fate, the planes of form, but is to begin to obtain a life view of the universe where everything is divided up quite differently into what we may adumbrate as earth things and air things, fire things and water things. To begin to sense these four, it is necessary to turn the mind away from the normal point of view of the world, away from all one sees on the formal planes. For these four deal with the unmanifest and not with the manifest, with the hitherto unnoticed and not with the habitual forms. Again, as to substance, to humans earth is more manifest than air, but to some beings water, if more manifest than earth, to others fire is more manifest, and so on. And by manifest seems to be meant what is apparently more actual. Before a neophyte of nature's mysteries can be trained to see another whole species of manifestation, he has to marry the four elements and so bring to birth within himself new centers onto which this new aspect of manifestation can link itself. But these new centers are not distributed in certain parts of his body, they are rather, so to say, within the atoms of his substance. This substantial linking onto the feminine side of nature is, compared with the true new birth, still a prenatal stage, but it is the beginning of a new creation. Nevertheless, the old remains, for it has well been said that a Christ is as it were a new keynote who makes everything mean something different while still remaining the same. This is, however, again but an adumbration of a truth that beggars all description. This is not the potential God-man in the prenatal stage, bathed in the golden spiritual life of Mother Nature, but the operative creative Christ, whose great work is to turn the golden negative life, substance, into positive life, when it becomes red, the color of the blood of things, spirit. The way of the mystic is the way of return, of regression. Therefore it may be said that at the top of the animal kingdom, that is to say at man, everything, as it were, turns round and goes back again. Thus, there is a stage of supermanhood which may be said to be in direct communication with the vegetable kingdom, and another following it which may be said, in the language of adumbration, to talk through the mineral world. Hence, such sayings as, "Ye are the salt of the earth." If a Christ surrender his soul to the world will surrender its body to him. The animal world will do so by becoming his complement, his counterpart, his bride. But he will wed the sacred animals and not the beasts of earth. And the sacred animals are connected with the living ideas of great mind. The vegetable world will surrender itself directly by becoming him, wheat, vine, tree. For the body of the Christ is of the nature of the bread of life, of the true vine, and of the master tree of the whole paradise. The minerals are the jewels on the breastplate of the high priest. They are the powers of the purified reason, for the breastplate is the logion, the oracle, as Philo tells us, and the Christ is a living oracle or speaker of words of wisdom. So much then for these few adumbrations of greater things. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.